Marc-Andre Fleury turned up big on Marc-Andre Fleury night. The Minnesota Wilds could look to get a couple of players into the lineup, and another tough week ahead for the Wild. We'll talk about all that on today's episode of Locked On Wild. We are your team every day.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Brandon Duham, and this is Locked On Wild.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild. We are your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, and we are your team every day. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, Alex Micheletti joins us to recap Marc-Andre Fleury night and a vintage performance for the veteran Minnesota Wild goaltender. We'll also talk about what it's going to take for Adam Beckman and Declan Chism to actually play. And we'll look at a critical week for the Minnesota Wild's single-digit percentage playoff chances that got a nice little boost against the Vegas Golden Knights last night, but still need some work. My name is Seth Topol, your daily Minnesota Wild insider, credentialed Minnesota Wild media member, joined as always by Alex Micheletti. But today it's a Tuesday. We had the Super Bowl, and I was literally out of the state, and so we just decided to roll with a Tuesday edition. And actually,
after a win,
we can make it a Victory Micheletti Tuesday. Because the Wild did beat the Vegas Golden Knights last night 5-3. Alex, before we talk about that game, I do want to rewind to Friday's festivities. Marc-Andre Fleury night. He gets the huge ovation from the crowd. He gets the video tribute. He gets that painting from Sidney Crosby that kind of immortalizes him, Evgeny Malkin, and Marc-Andre Fleury all together. Oh, and he turns in one of his best performances of the season to back it all up. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on the entirety of Marc-Andre Fleury night, because, you know, I couldn't imagine having to try to play through all those emotions, but it just looked like another regular game for Fleury, and he was awesome in that game against the Penguins.
Yeah, what an awesome tribute, getting all those legends to say a couple words. Brodeur, Patrick Waugh, that was really cool. And then when his kids said little things about their dad, that was that got me. And then they got to read the lineup. That was the starting lineup. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, pretty awesome for him to do it against the team that drafted him, the Penguins, and won multiple cups with, and playing it against Malkin and Letang and Crosby. Yeah, it was quite the effort from him, especially that the last minute of the game, guys were blocking shots, and he was making some outstanding saves. Yeah, it was awesome for him to get that win, and he's looked great, and yeah, it's gonna, if the Wild if they aren't gonna hang in the playoff race, I'm sure Bill Guerin's gonna go to him and say, hey, do you want to waive your no move? He's done it in the past because he had a no move with Chicago too, so he waived his no move to get to the Wild. So we'll see if he would do it again for for one last cup run. Because I don't, he doesn't seem like the guy that wants to do the, the tour of, hey, I'm retiring. I think this is it, and it'd be cool to see him, one last chance at another ring. So yeah, we'll see what his thoughts are in a couple weeks.
The crazy thing, I've got the Minnesota Wild stats all time.
Mm-hmm.
Flurry is 9th all time in games played in Minnesota Wild history in basically 3 seasons.
Crazy. It tells you how much the goaltending is. It's been a revolving door. So yeah, it'll be crazy. And then next year probably be Gus and Wallstead. So it just it continues, and we hope Wallstead has a long run.
He has one more win than Darcy Kemper in 21 fewer starts.
Doesn't that's the Darcy years feel so? Remember Matt Hackett? Like I'm just remembering old Wild goaltenders. It's crazy to think Darcy's still in the league too.
Yeah,
and he won a Stanley Cup. Crazy.
Marc-Andre Fleury is also tied for 7th all time in assists by Wild goalies with 2. And like you look at some of the other numbers too, goals against average, Fleury is 16th with 2.85. Save percentage, Fleury is 15th with a 906. But it's crazy to me that this guy that came over from Chicago when Bill Guerin traded for him to be like the 1B to Cam Talbot, has ended up actually being a fairly productive goalie with the Wild over these last few years. And yes, I'm sure people would love that had there been more wins and fewer goals. But I have continued to kind of hold firm to my thoughts that I hope people enjoyed what Marc-Andre Fleury brought to this team over these last few years as a guy on kind of the end of the line. Yeah. The last few years of his career, and he's done nothing but be just this great teammate, pranking people to no ends, and also making a bunch of saves, getting some huge milestones. Like we have seen the whole Marc-Andre Fleury experience over these last few years, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's amazing. You go back and look when he was on the Penguins, and just watching. I don't know if you watched a lot of those Hard Knocks stuff that HBO did, but just when he was a young guy with the Penguins too, and just the passion that he plays for the game. Not many have it like him, and the way he plays goalie is there's not a lot of goalies that play like Marc-Andre Fleury, and as the game has changed, of course you're going to see some more goals given up by him, and just age, but he still wants to win. He has that burning passion, even as he's close to 40 years old. And some of the saves that he's made this season, like against Columbus in overtime, where he did the splits. I mean, it's incredible what he's doing, and I think he will be really missed once he's finally done with the Wild. And so they're going to have to find another type of veteran type of presence, not a goaltender, because you're hoping that Wallstead can not be full-time NHL. He's still young, and as we saw versus Dallas, it didn't go well, but that was maybe not the right team to play against in your debut. But we'll see with him, but hopefully they can sign some type of veteran leader. Probably gonna be a 4th liner, but somebody to have that kind of presence in the room still.
And the next game that Fleury starts will move him into a tie with Cam Talbot for all time in Wild history with 82 games. So maybe we've got another ceremony before the season is done. 2 more starts and he will move into 8th place all alone.
Amazing.
In Minnesota Wild history. So it's been a lot of fun, and I think the final gift that Flurry can probably give us is granting his blessing to be traded.
Mhm.
But if this team keeps mixing in wins, that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
You're going to keep everything that you have to try to go on a postseason run that a lot of people just at this point are like, please. No.
Why? What are you doing? Yeah. You were in the top 10. Stay there. Top 10 for the draft. Stay where you are, especially in a really, really, really good good draft class.
Yeah, especially with some great defensemen up at the top, which would be
Yes.
a huge area of need for this team. Speaking
Or-
of, there was a player that the Wild acquired that could help with some of that blue line blues, but he's got to earn his opportunity to get into the lineup. And so we'll talk about that, as well as Adam Beckman's second chance at his chance. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. For instance, if you put $5 on the Minnesota Wild last night to win against Vegas, then you could be sitting with $150 in bonus bets to throw on anytime goal scorers the rest of the week, whether it be Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Boldy, Marco Rossi, Joel Eriksson Ek, Brock Faber, you name it, all great options for you once you collect those bonus bets. But you can only get that $150 in bonus bets if you go place a $5 bet that wins now. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Join and you can shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we are your team every day, and we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Seth Topal joined by Alex Micheletti, and Alex, I find it ironic that honestly, I could do nothing but laugh at how this played out, because there was a particular clip in Michael Russo's write-up about Adam Beckman from our beloved general manager. And I quote, "This is his chance." And then what happened? He was healthy scratched. This being Adam Beckman, of course. He was healthy scratched. Then Marcus Foligno went on injured reserve. Then he was recalled for his second chance at his chance. And then he didn't play against the Vegas Golden Knights either. So my question, and we talked about this in the postcast, but I'm just going to quickly rehash, because like, you tell me, because in the bottom six, there were a ton of shots by the top guys in the lineup, which we like. We want.
Especially Matt Boldy.
Yeah.
I mean, what, like 16 attempts? My goodness.
More of that, please. Yeah. But Connor Dewar, no shots. Brandon Duhaime, no shots. Freddie Gaudreau, no shots. Vinny Lettieri, no shots.
Lots of
Jake
cardio.
Lucchini, no shots. You mean to tell me that you can't find an opportunity for Adam Beckman to just go rip 3 or 4 shots? Like, Alex, I just don't know. Like, you can't expect 2 lines to do all of the scoring and just have the other 2 lines just out there just because.
That's why they're a non-playoff team right now. That's the issue. That's the issue. You can't have a bottom 6 that does nothing. I mean, Connor Dewar and Brandon Duhaime, you guys are free agents this summer. Yeah, if you're trying to put out tape to other teams, I mean, what are you doing out there? And I mean, with who the Wild have upcoming against the Coyotes, you'd think you'd be able to fit Adam Beckman in, because the Coyotes have lost 6 in a row, and I think the wheels have fallen off the Corvette down there in Arizona. They got all sorts of bad vibes with their ownership right now, and they got the owner's son tweeting out just the most random things. I don't know if you were following that, but it's been unhinged again, so it's crazy. Jim Cramer memes. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's not great because, like, again, also another very quiet night. Marcus Johansson, he had one shot on net. He had a
Can't figure him out.
He had a very bad penalty. That interference penalty was very bad.
It was horrendous.
And he had a takeaway. So he did have a positive in the stats department, but 17 minutes and one shot on net.
Well, that is a ton of ice time. That is a ton of ice time just to do absolutely nothing, just glide around basically.
And it's funny because there's a large sect of people that rush to Marcus Johansson's defense. It's like, you're paying him.
This is a second go around of him here too.
You're playing him as a second line guy almost exclusively, and you're getting one shot on net per night. Like, I feel like you could do so much better by putting somebody in that spot that simply shoots the puck. And what do we know about Adam Beckman? Russo tweeted about this.
That's all he does.
He shoots the puck. He had 28 shots in his last 4 games before he got called up, and then he didn't play, and then he got sent back down, and then he got called up again, and he didn't play. Like, if you're just going to call somebody up to be an extra body, go call Jujhar Khaira up, or call Nick Patan, anybody. But, like, if you're going to call up a guy and then be vocal about the fact that this is his chance, put him in the lineup, please. Like, am I on crazy pills here?
No, it's he's got to look at his phone when he sees Bill Guerin, and he must call his agent, and they must be like, can I decline going up?
Yeah.
I mean, he gets paid a little bit more to play in the NHL, or at least called up. It's absolutely insane. It's got to drive him crazy, and he's going to be a free agent this summer, restricted, but still, it's like he's got to think, why am I in this organization? And with the way the schedule is, if you were to get him into a game, it would have to be the Arizona game, because then you play some big boys coming up. So yeah, I mean, this would be the most ideal spot against a team that's really, really struggling, and a team that would allow him to get a lot of opportunities to shoot the puck, because that's all Arizona does. Arizona just gave up 5 to Philly last night, so they give up a ton of goals. So that would be the most ideal spot in a smaller rink that's kind of comparable to what he's been playing in Des Moines. So yeah, that would be an ideal spot for both him and Mr. Chism.
Yeah, the Declan Chism thing too. And I just Googled, has an NHL prospect ever refused a call up? Didn't really get a lot of great responses.
The law firm of Beckham Chism needs to play. Let them play.
They need to get some ads out there, get their name more widely known. If anybody in the comments knows of any instances in which an NHL prospect has just straight up been like, nah, I'm good.
There's got to be a Russian that said, I'm just going to go back to Russia.
Somebody did. Somebody did that. Jack McBain maybe would be kind of an example, but he just basically demanded to be traded.
He saw the depth chart and was like, peace. Thank you for taking me to Arizona.
Oh, sick. Freddie Gaudreau in front of me. Like, oh boy.
Oh, he has a 5-year deal? Okay. See ya.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Declan Chism on the other end. It's funny because this, like, I got heated about this because look, if you want to say we need to get him into a practice, that's fine. That's one thing. But why did we see the everybody's playing too well to pull anybody out of the lineup. Why did that suddenly pop up after they acquired a 24-year-old defenseman who can move the puck, who can actually contribute offensively, and isn't like a live hand grenade out on the ice?
And they blocked a couple teams from getting to him. I mean, they were Mike Russo said that there was other teams that wanted Chisholm, so it's like those other teams probably would be using him right now. It just seems like they just put it in just to put it in, throw their name in. Yeah, this is the perfect example of a guy that you could throw in, and if it's disastrous, you just put him back on waivers. He was on waivers to begin with, so he was on waivers for a reason. So, give him an opportunity, practice. You can practice all you want, but,
got to get into a game.
Got to get into a game and see how he handles playing in an actual NHL game.
Well, he just has some intangibles that he doesn't quite bring at the same level that 33 and 4 do. While we just watched number 4 get called for
back in the box
delay of game because he's hitting flop shots out here behind the net with a hockey stick
in Vegas.
What are we doing here?
Yeah,
again, I go back to the Mugatu line. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Maybe I am. Who knows? It'd be a great opportunity to see Adam Beckman and Declan Chism get into the lineup because you've got this is put up or shut up week, I think, for the 50th.
I mean, you aren't going to put him in against Edmonton. You don't want to put him in against a high power team like that. So.
No. Let's talk about the few games coming up here to end the week, as I affectionately call it, put up or shut up week for the 50th time this season. Actually, the next 2 weeks, the next 3 weeks are going to be make or break.
Yeah.
So
seriously.
We'll talk about that stretch again for the 90th time this year as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Sleeper. The NHL season is past the midway point. The Minnesota Wild are fighting for their lives. And even though they are not in the postseason, you can still win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether elite level players like Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, or in the game last night against the Vegas Golden Knights, Matt Boldy or Kirill Kaprizov. All you have to do is pick whether they go more or less than their Sleeper projections for categories such as goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, or more in a given game. The best part about Sleeper is you can make your entries in under 60 seconds. And if you're a fan of other sports like the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and college football, they got you covered as well. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. One final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we are your team every day. Seth Topol joined by Alex Micheletti, recapping some fun against the Vegas Golden Knights, but it's going to be one of those weeks. I just have a hunch that it's going to be one of those weeks for the Wild because they play the Arizona Coyotes on Wednesday. Alex, as you alluded to in the postcast and also here in today's episode, Arizona has lost 6 in a row. They are in utter
free fall,
hopeless despair and free fall at this point in the season. And there's been precisely two close games, three close games. But listen to these scores. 6-2 loss to the Panthers, 6-3 loss to the Lightning, 3-1 to the Hurricanes, 3-2 to the Golden Knights, 5-4 to the Predators, and 5-3 to the Philadelphia Flyers in their most recent game. And so even though Arizona has a game in hand, they now find themselves 1 point, 3 points behind the Minnesota Wild. But we saw this the last time these two teams matched up, is that if you give a team even a little bit of life, a little bit of a leash, they'll get you 6-0 without even really having to put up
a Nick
fight.
Bukestad hat trick.
And he did that in like half of a game.
That was crazy.
This has just been the entire story for this team the entire season. Is they find ways to win all of these non-essential games, but when it gets to the critical ones against the Western Conference playoff teams, it's mostly just hot garbage.
Yeah, a Central Division collision, as Kevin Fallness would say.
Gotta love Arizona. But I did see the one highlight that I saw from the Coyotes was that Matt Dumba scored to start off that game, and then after that it was
crazy.
Yikes.
Philly's got some really good young talent. That Owen Tippett is just a freak of nature, and Travis Konechny, he's probably going to get a Matt Boldy type of contract, probably even more than that. He's going to be cashing in here very soon. I would not, I'd expect that contract extension to be going soon. And Jamie Drysdale scored for them, so that trade was working out pretty well for them. So we'll see if Philly can make the playoffs or not.
It has been a bit of a rough go, especially goalie wise. The Coyotes goaltending has hit a snag.
Yeah, I mean Ingram was going well, and then it's been horrendous, and it's just I don't know what the deal is with them, and they're a team that relies on one line so much too. If Clayton Keller and Schmaltz, if those guys don't get their points, they struggle with depth for sure in Arizona.
And after that, then it's the Buffalo Sabres. I know Saturday at 4 is an interesting time.
Hideous. Yeah, I don't like that at all.
But the Sabres have lost 2 in a row.
Yeah.
They've scored precisely 1 goal in each of those losses. They play the Los Angeles Kings tonight.
Right.
But as we know from Buffalo, they are just a weird team.
Really weird team. Tage Thompson hasn't had the year that he had last year, but he always plays well against the Wild. And then you always got they have a bunch of Minnesota guys and Alex Tuck, but they have Okposo and Middlestad, and Eric Johnson, who was with Colorado forever, and so. Yeah, it's an interesting team. They have some guys that aren't, like I said, aren't producing as they have in the past. Dylan Cousins got a monster deal, and he has not lived up to that. And old friend Jordan Greenway's on that team too. And it's a weird squad. They have a stud rookie goalie and Levi. We'll see if he plays against the Wild or not. But it's a weird team that just has been so inconsistent. They should be so much better. They have one of the best defensemen in the league in Rasmus Dahlin too. They're a team that for whatever reason can't fully put it together.
Should I rile people up? Jordan Greenway.
Yeah.
With 6 goals and 8 assists. 6 goals and 8 assists.
Sounds exactly what if you were picturing how it's going for Jordan Greenway.
Yeah.
That would be the stat line.
Do you want to know who he has more points than?
On that team?
On our team.
Oh. Connor Duhaime. Yes.
I'm thinking somebody who has a little bit more of a lengthy contract.
Freddie Gaudreau?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So he has 6 goals and 8 assists for 14 total points. Freddie Evison Goudreau has 3 goals and 7 assists, 10
Yikes.
total points in 40
For a guy
games.
on that big of a contract or lengthwise.
I can do you one better than that. Actually, no, I can't, because I was going to try to see if there was anybody notable that had fewer goals than Greenway, but Pat Maroon with 4, I wouldn't really consider that anything noteworthy. So no, I think that tells enough of a story, because it would have been Marcus Johansson, but Johansson at least
He kind of picked it up a little
he's
bit.
finally gotten up to 8 goals. So I guess you could say Jordan Greenway has 2 fewer goals than Marcus Johansson.
That's tough too when he's making
tough
more than
scene.
Greenway too. Yeah.
That's a tough scene.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you know what's coming, because it always happens, is that either Jordan Greenway or Alex Tuck is going to score in that game.
Yeah.
But if I remember,
Poso, yeah.
If I remember correctly, that Buffalo game was infuriating, because didn't the Wild have just a mess of shots, and they still weren't able to solve Pekka Luukkonen?
Yeah, UPL or whatever.
Yeah, the Upper Peninsula of Ukko Pekka Luukkonen, who is 12-13-2 with a 2.6. Devin Levi 9-7-2 with a 3.3. Collectively, Buffalo is 3.12 goals against average and an .897 save percentage.
Yeah, it's hideous. It's really hideous. I mean, they should be so much better than they are defensively, and now they have. I saw Owen Power is hurt, so that makes them their defense even more weaker. So I mean that I just that's a team I thought Don Granato would have in a better spot, and I don't know, they just cannot figure it out. It's too bad. You thought after they would traded Eichel that things would get better, but it has not gotten better.
The Minnesota Wilds figure this out. So they lost 3-2 to Buffalo in a game in which they outshot Buffalo 35-25. They outhit Buffalo 26-15. They won 40 faceoffs to 15 for the Buffalo Sabres. They were 2 for 5 on the power play and 4 for 4 on the penalty kill, and still lost.
It's crazy. That makes no sense, right? That's
so don't do that again.
Right.
Again, if you what do our wonderful friends at moneypuck.com, what do they have for the updated odds for your beloved 4.85?
Wow.
So you're telling me that it is a sliver of life, but it'll be way less than that if you end up losing to Arizona.
Yeah, that's another game where it's just like you said, you can't lose that type of game when it's a Central Division opponent.
Yeah.
And you coming off an emotional win, you win in Vegas, and they were honoring Petro there for his 1,000th game. It seems like he's been in the league for a lot longer than that. And you could tell that he was doing everything he could to try to get a win, and when they were honoring him, he had 2 assists, and I still can't believe Jonathan Marchessault. He always plays well against the Wild, and for that fluke goal to he's just flinging it at the net, and it just that gave me bad flashbacks of a Doobie goal. It bounces off somebody and then it was like, oh my God, here we go again. But they rallied and somehow pulled that off. Just sometimes you catch Aiden Hill on a off night, and the Wild took advantage.
if you move him off his spot, good Lord.
He is stiff. It's if there's a scouting report on Aiden Hill, it's get him moving,
Get him
because
sideways.
that giant of a man is he's no Marc-Andre Fleury when it comes to flexibility.
No, he's not nimble, as they say. And the Wilds made him look not nimble. But again, we've seen this before. We've seen this film before, and we didn't like the ending because you win 3 games in a row, and then you go on a 2-game losing streak, and you're literally right back where you were. So if you want people to start to actually think that a postseason run is possible, you just got to keep winning games. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, then more and more people are going to fall in line with Locked On Wild, who is firmly of the belief that it's not possible. But as long as this team continues to think that it is, I feel like we have to at least acknowledge it.
It's the Minnesota way. They just, when you think that it's completely over, they just hang by a thread, and it's where they are right now too. It's just you can't make it up.
It was Al Pacino. Just when I thought I was out, they
pull me back in.
It's a very bad Al Pacino impression, yes. But I tried. Well, that will do it for today's episode. So again, we thank you for joining us. Make sure to hit the like button before you click out of today's episode. Also, make sure to subscribe if you have not already, either via your favorite podcast platform or via YouTube. Whichever you choose is perfectly fine. Just make sure that you show Locked On Wild some love so that we can continue to spread the reach to Wild fans all over the globe. We've got new episodes coming up for you all throughout the week. Plus, make sure to join us for our Wednesday night live show, Wild Wednesday, coming up at 7 p.m. before the game against the Arizona Coyotes. Beyond that, make sure you stick with us as we've got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.